Hi, my name is Madeline Arecki. I'm a first grade teacher at Middle Road School. This is my 5th year teaching here and my 6th year teaching altogether. I became a teacher because I always loved going to school. I loved all my own elementary school teachers. I went to Raritan Valley and just every day I wanted to be just like them. Being a teacher to me means really just building relationships with students. I'm the most passionate about forming those connections and just knowing that I can really impact a student's day. Making them smile just with a simple hello or making them laugh during small group time is really what makes my day as well. And I love just forming those relationships with them. And I love seeing them grow from September to June and seeing their personalities come out too. In my opinion, a successful teacher is one that helps students grow not only academically, but also socially, emotionally, and to really help them foster a sense of independence that they can take with them as they grow throughout the years. Some of my best practices include fostering student choice. So I'm a big believer in letting students choose throughout the day. In first grade, it's more controlled in what they can choose, but whether it's how they practice their words, their math facts, what they get to read about for writing projects, it really helps them take ownership of their work, and I find that they're more engaged and excited to complete their assignments. I start forming connections with my students from the summer, so I usually send them like a letter to get excited. There's some confetti, so they're more excited to come to a new school because they're new when they come to me in first grade. And then throughout the school year, I like to show bits of my personality with them, and I like tell them like what I'm doing on the weekends too. My teaching philosophy is to teach students to become lifelong learners by making school a fun, welcoming, safe place for them and getting them to feel excited to come every day. I always loved coming to school, so I want to make sure that they feel that same way and hopefully that they can have that same experience I did so that they continue to want to learn every day and maybe they too can become teachers and keep the circle going.
My name is Carrie Friedman. I teach at Beer Street School. I teach 5th grade resource math and 6th grade resource language arts and math. I've been teaching for 20 years. I decided to become a teacher so I could make a difference in children's lives and show them that they could do what they normally thought was not possible. Being a teacher to me means being able to reach every type of learner, and I'm passionate about helping my students achieve their maximum potential. My top priority as a teacher is to ensure that all my students learn the way that they need to learn. A successful teacher can have rigor and create relationships with her students and help them achieve things they didn't think they could. This year, my proudest moment was I have a reluctant learner and we were doing money and her mom had emailed me that she'd written me a thank you letter but was afraid to to give it to me, so the mom screenshot it and sent it to me and said that her daughter was so excited and proud that she could count change that she held up the whole line at the store to count her change out at the register, and I just was like, the light bulb went off, and that's why I do it. Some of my best practices are a multi-sensory environment for the students to learn, digital platforms, and hands-on manipulatives. I connect with my students by explaining the rules and having rules and expectations and follow through, and I think that sometimes they need a parental figure, so developing those relationships with them is important. My teaching philosophy is to teach to the individual student and to raise the bar and show them that they can achieve things that they might not have thought they could.
Hi, my name is Stephen Vitti. I teach 4th grade at Lillian Drive School, and I've been a teacher in Hazlitt for 5 years, but a teacher for 13 years. I always knew I would be a teacher. As a kid, I would always say I'm going to grow up and be a math teacher. I had an uncle who would call me professor because I like to walk around correcting everyone and every mistake people made. So it was just one of those things where I said I'm going to be a teacher and just stuck with it. Being a teacher to me means being a role model, being someone that the students can look up to, just being the same person every day, being someone that students can count on. My top priority as a teacher is to just make sure I'm teaching my students to be good people, to be respectful. We do a lot of group projects where they have to learn how to work together, because it's really hard when you're young and you want to do something your way and someone wants to do it their way and you have to come to common ground. I think what makes a teacher successful isn't necessarily the scores that they get on a test, just that they're growing and they're learning and we're seeing improvement and that they're becoming a better person. Perfect. So some of my best practices that any student who's come through my room would tell you is all the STEM projects that we do. So anything from spaghetti towers to building boats that could hold pennies. We always have Tune Tuesday, where we take breaks from your typical reading lessons and we dissect like fun songs you hear on the radio. Every kid who comes through my classroom, besides knowing me as the crazy Eagles fan, will probably tell you the STEM projects are the thing that mean the most to them. I think it's extremely important to make connections with students. The one thing that I do all the time, and at the elementary level, they love talking about their friends, their siblings. So I always say to them, like, oh, in the beginning of school year, how many siblings do you have? What sports do you play? I'm always asking them things that go on in their personal life. And then it just builds more of a trust where they know they could come and talk to me about maybe someone or something in their life because I already know about it. It's not strange to me. My teaching philosophy, when I was in college, I had a professor who was trying to make a point of, at the elementary level, do students need to like their teacher or do they need to just respect their teacher? And the answer is they need to like their teacher. Like, they're not old enough yet where they can make that, distinguish the fact of, I don't like this guy so much, but I respect him. Like, they're not at that age yet. So in order to make them like me, they have to do fun things in the classroom. So everything I plan for them, I try to make sure it's fun. Another thing is I'm always giving them like the corny dad jokes and things like that to make them feel comfortable when they come to school.
My name is Christine Kaminsky. I teach preschool at Sycamore Drive Early Childhood Learning Center, and this is my 8th year teaching. Ever since I was a little girl, I've always had a love for children and a love for helping others, so I knew I wanted a career geared towards both. My goal as a teacher is not only to make a difference in the students' lives, but have fun doing it. If I'm having fun, then I know my students are having fun, and that's most important. I feel more learning happens when not only am I having fun, but also my students are having fun. And they're smiling, which is most important, especially in the preschool environment. As a preschool teacher, I am your child's first teacher in the school environment. We build the foundation to make each student successful. We help them become independent and get them ready for their futures. To be successful in preschool, you have to make sure you are flexible and ready to change your day at a drop of a hat. Repetition is extremely important in preschool. All day, all long, we sing, we dance, we just have a great time. And we learn a lot through play. This is the age the students are learning to be independent and build their own confidence within themselves to become successful not only in school but in their everyday lives. As an educator at this age level, it is very important to make sure my listening ears are always on and I am always ready to listen and respond to each and every child so they feel loved and respected, because we all know young children love to talk. As an educator, it is important to provide a safe and nurturing environment. I always want to make sure my students feel loved and cared for while learning. The biggest compliment I can receive as an early childhood teacher is when a student calls me mom. That's when I know my students feel safe and loved and I'm doing my job well.
Hi, my name is Tracy Colangelo. I'm a 3rd grade teacher at Raritan Valley School, and this is my 23rd year of teaching. I decided to become a teacher because I knew from a very young age that I wanted to work with children. I came to Raritan Valley School as a child myself, and I was inspired by many of the teachers that were here. Being a teacher really means everything to me. You know, for 7 hours a day, I am the person for all these children. I am the person they come to when they're excited, when they're sad, when they have a great idea, and so for me, that's everything. My top priority as a teacher is to provide a safe, engaging, nurturing environment for the students each and every day. And by doing that, I know that they will learn and they will feel comfortable, and our days together will be the best that they can be. In my opinion, a successful teacher is one who is flexible, empathetic, engaging, nurturing, and always willing to learn something new. So my best practices would include setting very straightforward expectations, establishing routines, and always having an open line of communication with parents. Connecting with students is very important. So the way I connect with my students is by spending time at each of their tables every single day. I sit and I take the time to listen to their stories and listen to what they want to share with me. And by providing that time to talk with them, they see me as a real person. My teaching philosophy has always been the same since I started. Teachers are the one profession where we wear many different hats. On some days, I'm just a teacher, but on other days, I am a referee, or I'm a nurse, or I'm a problem solver, or I'm an engineer. And so as a teacher, I think it's our job to be able to navigate all of those different roles seamlessly and effortlessly and be able to move on with our day.
Hi, my name is Amanda Pilicki. I am a 6th grade language arts and social studies teacher here at Cove Road School, and I've been teaching for the past 7 years. Being a teacher is the only thing I've wanted to do my entire life. There was never anything that I considered myself doing more. So the fact that I get to do my dream job and do what I love on a daily basis, it's the world to me. A teacher is successful when there's mutual respect between the teacher and the students. If the students don't respect you as an educator, they're not going to listen to what it is that you want to teach them. A successful teacher is somebody who has high expectations of their students. You need to make those expectations known at the beginning of the year, and you need to challenge your students to meet those high expectations. A successful teacher needs to make the students feel confident in themselves and their own learning, that they can meet those expectations and realize their true potential in the classroom. One of my best practices in the classroom is trying to make the material as relevant and connectable to my students as possible. So I'm a huge Disney fan. I try to incorporate it into my classroom as much and as physically possible. Me teaching about plot is one thing, but when you can plot a Pixar short, it connects a lot more to the students than rather just reading something and then as you're reading kind of plot out. But it also helps students who struggle with reading and struggle with reading comprehension. So when you also add that visual aspect in it, it makes it a little bit easier. Another best practice of mine is knowing that I don't need to be the leader of the classroom at all moments. Yes, at the beginning of a lesson, I need to be there guiding the students, letting them know what it is that I want them to do. But then it's also turning the tables and let them be the leaders. Let them learn from one another. I learn from my students daily, so I always want to have them be able to learn from each other, not just from me. Personal relationships with your students is really fundamental for their success as a student. When they feel comfortable in your classroom, they're going to want to participate. They're going to want to raise their hand and know that you're there for them and you're there to support them. My classroom is a family every year. So being able to connect with my students and have those personal relationships makes my classroom a better place. I really believe that children are the future. I want them to know that they can take something that I taught them and take it and incorporate it into their lives on the personal level, beyond the classroom level, and just be better people.
My name is Jen Mahoney. I teach 7th grade and 8th grade English Language Arts at Hazlitt Middle School, and I've been here since 1999. I decided to become a teacher because I enjoy helping people. I love seeing my students grow, not just academically, but socially as well. It's very rewarding. To me, being a teacher means having an inclusive classroom where everyone feels welcomed. Once my students enter the classroom, I want it to be a warm and supportive environment. And it's very important to me that my students are growing and learning and happy, and that they feel safe when they come to school. My top priority as a teacher is to have my students reading more. So I think reading is very important because it helps in so many different areas. It helps their vocabulary, their writing skills, and their literacy skills. So that's probably my top priority as being a teacher. In my opinion, what makes a teacher successful is not just being there academically for the students, but also socially as well. My classroom door is always open to my students, that this is a place for them to come have lunch or to talk about things outside of the classroom. Some of my best practices that I use include connecting with my students. So I do that by sharing parts of my own life with them. Also, routines in the classroom that students know what to expect. I'll have an agenda on the board so that students come in and we have a routine established. And finally, student engagement is very important. Having students engaged with the lesson and also having student choice where students have options and they feel engaged and that they have a voice in the lesson that is happening in the classroom. I connect with my students by sharing parts of my own life with them. For example, during our writer's workshop lessons, I will cite my own examples of maybe something I did over the weekend and how I would write about that in my journal, and connecting with them so that they see me not just as their teacher, but as a person that they can turn to and talk to. My teaching philosophy is that all students have the ability to learn and grow. So regardless of where my students are when they enter my classroom, I feel that all of them can grow. So they are reaching their maximum potential by the end of the school year, so that we see that growth from September to June. And I really feel that once they're in the classroom, we personalize the instruction so that they can learn and grow.
I'm Rory Clayton. I teach literature up at the high school for Raritan, and I teach anywhere from sophomores, juniors, and seniors. On a whim, I took an intro to ed class in college. I was actually going to be a marketing and advertising major, and I took an intro to ed class, and the professor was just so amazing, and I just kind of like fell in love with it, and that's what I ended up pursuing the rest of my college career. I completely switched directions and decided to become a teacher. Being a teacher means to me like giving back to my community. For those of you who know me, you know, I grew up in Hazlitt for the most part. I graduated from this school, so it meant a lot to me to come back to this school specifically and give back to this community because I did have a great experience. And really, being a teacher just means being able to connect with kids and maybe give them a different perspective on what they're learning. My top priority as a teacher is to, one, connect with my kids on a personal level so they feel comfortable in my class. And I always tell my students that, you know, they may not enjoy school at this point in high school. A lot of kids don't necessarily like coming to school, but if they don't mind being in my class, then I've done my job. Then I've created the environment that I want them to be in. What makes a teacher successful is being able to connect with the kids. So, you know, anybody could be educated about literature. You know, you could read all kinds of books and know how to teach books, but if you can't relay that information to your students in a way that they understand it, in a way that they can connect to it, it's really meaningless. So being able to connect with them and explain things to them in a way that they understand, in a way that they can relate to, is, I think, the most important thing. The best practices for me are just life stories. Like anytime I could bring my real life into it, anytime I could bring a story into the classroom where it's not just all literature all day, where we could have a break of, you know, again, they're learning through life experiences as opposed to reading something out of a book. I try and mix that into what I'm doing. I tell my kids all the time, even in like the first PowerPoint that I do of the year when I'm just going over what my class is about, my motto is to have fun but work hard. I'm one of those people who love my job, and regardless, you know, I'm actually very laid back, and I have, you know, a good sense of humor where if you could have fun doing what you're doing, you know, I have fun at my job every day. Every day, at least one kid makes me laugh. And if we could do that and still maintain, you know, what we're trying to do and what we're trying to get done, if we could have fun doing it, it just makes the year go by a lot quicker.